No one wants to do anything in May. Hello, my time crunch teachers, Marielle here, and welcome to the 100 days of May. So I'm filming this in mid-May and we're all exhausted. The kids finally finished wrapping up standardized testing and the teachers are spent with all of the end of the year graduations or promotions and staff parties where we're actually just sitting around filling out student cumulative folders. Side note, if you're a sixth grade teacher, can you just pretend that you read all the things I wrote for my 32 students in their cum folders that I did this year? Maybe you can just drop a comment saying, "Good job identifying the students' academic strengths and leadership potential." Okay, so there's a lot to do in May, which means I understand that what I'm about to suggest is going to sound bonkers, but hear me out. Right now, at the end of the year, is the perfect time to clear out the clutter in your classroom. I see that you're going to need some convincing. So first of all, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. In August, when it's time to set up my classroom, it only takes me a few hours. Seriously, I made this whole video about it, and honestly, most of that time is spent like rearranging my seating chart 15 times and then bugging my coworkers to see what snacks they brought. So how can I do this? It's because I pack up my classroom like a pro in May. Everything has its place, and I just put it away nicely and then take it out when it's time. To which you're probably saying, sure, you can do that because you don't have like a ton of stuff that needs to be cleaned out. Totally fair. But that is only true now because in my career, I've inherited four packed, cluttered, forgotten classrooms with piles and piles of things that I had to go through and purge. So please understand that I totally sympathize with those of you who have mountains of stuff to go through. But, and I'm going to be honest here, you can't organize a cluttered classroom. You have to purge first and get rid of a lot. Because by the end of this process, everything, and I mean everything, in your classroom has to be stored in an easily accessible location that's not your spare bedroom closet or garage or car. Now, I know as teachers, we like to hold on to things, hoard them even, and I know why. Many of us have spent our own money on classroom supplies or gotten good deals on them or even made them ourselves. But all that time and money and effort is not worth it if the items are not being accessed and used regularly by the students. Like, big deal keeping binders and binders of leveled readers that you bought off of TPT if you never pull them out or if they're the wrong like grade level anyway. Everything in your classroom should have a purpose and be useful for you and your students. And the things you're holding onto shouldn't feel like burdens. I created a really simple 4-item checklist to help you determine what you should and should not keep. But before I go through the details of it, I want to add a piece of advice that you need to start with first. Please, please be sure to ask your administration or front office which documents or supplies you have to keep. Every school I've worked at had a list of things that you were required to have in your classroom for a variety of legal or even like procedural reasons, like attendance slips or field trip permission forms, certain desks or tables that need to be wheelchair accessible, that kind of thing. So before you toss anything, please be sure to check with your school first because I don't want you to get in trouble because you took down some notice or donated a supply item that absolutely belonged to the school. So check with your school first. Okay, so you're ready to tackle the stuff. How do you know what to keep? Well, here are the 4 questions I ask myself when I start decluttering a classroom. And no, I'm not going to ask you to only keep items that spark joy because Expo markers and number 2 pencils do not spark joy for me, but they are absolutely necessary for my 5th grade classroom. Sharpened number 2 pencils spark joy for me. Those are amazing. It's worth the extra 50 cents a box. Okay, begin by taking everything out of your cabinets. Yes, every single thing. You need to see how many glue sticks you've been hoarding that are totally dried out. So spend an afternoon and yank it all out of the cabinets. If you work with older students or have like really dope coworkers, please enlist them to help too. It goes so much faster when there's other people. Begin by getting rid of everything that's just garbage or recycling. Just dump it and move on. This might include that really cute bracelet that a third grader made for you that totally broke, and now you have a desk drawer full of beads. It's okay. She doesn't remember making it for you. And she's probably in college anyway. Okay, so now you have a bunch of supplies that you're probably hemming and hawing about, like whether to keep certain things. Take the item in front of you and ask these 4 questions. Number 1, have I used it in the last 2 years? If the answer is no, just move on. Why are the children playing Halo? 20 minutes to record this thing. And they're like, what a perfect time for the entire household to play Halo with the neighbor kids. Okay. I think 2 years is the perfect amount of time to decide whether something is useful or not. So for example, I used to teach 6th grade and I had this super fun unit on ancient Greece that had this whole like Olympics games thing at the end, and it worked great for a few years. But then I noticed it started to feel a little stale, and I don't know if the kids changed or maybe it wasn't exciting for me anymore, but for whatever reason, I shelved it. And it sat there for years. And I would think, but it used to be so fun and I spent so much time putting it together. Cool. Those kids enjoyed it. These kids, not so much. Time to move on. This happens a lot with novel units that I created. There are novels that certain kids loved, but just like don't land right now and seem to be just dated. So I toss those units and find something else, or I use something else. And honestly, most of us have digital copies of those types of lesson plans, so the physical copies can just be recycled. Now, I know some of you are brand new to teaching, and if you just started teaching this year, like let's say 4th grade, you might be thinking, well, I don't want to get rid of any of this stuff because I'm brand new. What if this is something I need as a 4th grade teacher? Which is a great question, and definitely one I asked myself when I started teaching. But I feel like 2 years is a really good goalpost for you. So it gives you a year or so to just absorb everything that's happening in your new position or grade. And then in your second year, you can start experimenting with adding some new things in. So by the time of your end of your second year, I think you have a pretty good gauge of what you do and do not want to have for a particular grade level. And if you're super nervous about getting rid of something, you can always just ask another teacher in your grade level if they think it's a good resource to keep or to get rid of. All right, if it's something you've used within the last 2 years, let's move on to question number 2. Ask yourself, if you had to buy this item again, would you pay full price for it? I actually use this question a lot when I'm going through items in my own home, actually. And I love this question for things that you're holding onto simply because you got a good deal on it. Because it's not a good deal if you're not actually using it. So what if you have bags and bags of googly eyes because some yard sale had them for $3? Let's be real. How many projects do you use with googly eyes? Do you put them on all your pencils? No, you don't. And if you do, stop doing that because you're making the rest of us look bad. So take the item you're thinking about and ask yourself, if someone presented you with it and asked you to pay current full price market value, would you? And if the answer is no, then it's time to get rid of it. You don't need to turn your classroom into a craft supply room just because something was on sale. All right, let's move on to the third question. Is it currently useful? Now, this kind of folds into the last 2 questions because it should be something you've used in the last 2 years and has a strong used value for you. But if it's not something you're going to currently use this coming school year, then it's not worth holding on to. I know what you're going to say. I didn't use this item because it was when I taught 1st grade and I'm teaching 3rd grade this year. And what if I get switched again and I need it? Fair, but what is the likelihood that you need all the things from 1st grade? And if you're like me, or every couple of years you get moved to a new grade level because the student enrollment changes, chances are you have many grade levels worth of supplies in your classroom. But you need to be honest if the item is going to serve your current students. So for example, I currently teach 5th grade, but for the 2 prior years, I taught 2nd grade. So I have a lot of 2nd grade centers and supplies and materials and lessons. And do you think I'll end up teaching 2nd grade again? Probably, but I don't really want to keep storing bins and bins of 2nd grade math materials that have no purpose or use for my 5th graders. So at the end of the school year, I plan on passing them on to some current 2nd grade teachers who can put them to really good use with their students and let the kids enjoy them, which is why I made them for kids to learn. I will say this though, I'm totally keeping my floor puzzles because I actually have a really fun math facts game that uses floor puzzles that I did this week with my 5th graders, and they loved it. Don't forget to remind me to make a video about that. I'm going to remind myself. Floor puzzles thing. Okay. All right. 4th and final question. I like to ask myself, if I was going to teach on this topic again, would I grab this resource over another similar one? So let me give you an example. When I was going through my clothes closet at home, I had to do some of this with my t-shirts that I had. I used to have 3 almost identical crew neck white t-shirts that were just slightly different in fit and like fabric weight, but they pretty much all looked the same. However, every time I put together an outfit that required a white t-shirt, I always just picked the same one shirt. The other 2 I just never chose to wear. I don't know why. Maybe it was like the fit or the feel or something, but I just picked the one and skipped the other 2. So I got rid of them. Good job winning. Okay, be quiet now. Now, here's how you can apply this to classroom supplies. There's no reason to hold on to multiple versions of the same thing if you only reach for the one. For example, you might have tons and tons of that bulletin board borders or edging, but if you only choose the same 2 colors or patterns or just buy new ones every year, then there's no need to hold on to the old ones that you never use or like cut to funny little sizes that you don't want to mess with. I also see this a lot with teachers who have a bunch of activities on a specific topic. So for example, say you teach a science unit about mammals and you have this one big project and this one art tie-in and then this like group activity and all these worksheets. But when it comes around to the mammals unit, you always pick the same books and activities and never take out the other ones. Well, just pick your favorites and get rid of the rest. Perhaps you have a colleague that would love to have some variety in their units and would be happy to take them off your hands. This is a great way to get rid of duplicates and only keep the things that you really like and use in your classroom. I know that going through all of this stuff can feel really overwhelming. Believe me, I've done it multiple times myself, and I've helped many of my colleagues do the same, but I want you to keep the end goal in sight. Life is going to be so much easier in August or whenever you come back to school and you have to set up your classroom. And if you're like me and you have to pack up everything in your classroom for summer school classes anyway, you really do have to have a place to store everything for a few months. And my husband has given me a 1-box limit. Gone are the days when I was carting home bins and bins of pens for some reason and an entire mini fridge. I do have a ridiculous amount of plants though, and they can't be like abandoned over summer. That's just kind of sad. So what's most important to keep in mind is that when you come back in August or whenever you return to school, you're going to have so much energy and excitement that you know where everything is and you can just pull it out and set it up, and it's going to be so nice to be able to do that. If you're interested in seeing exactly how I set up my 5th grade classroom this year, then check out this video where I basically bide my time until it's lunch so I can go annoy my coworkers. Or if you're interested in seeing more videos on classroom organization and supplies, which is totally my jam, then check out this playlist with things like paper management, grading hacks, and how to tackle email clutter once and for all.